The game development studio cycle over this past gaming generation has often proven to be one of slow but steady decline. So suffice it to say, I've enjoyed watching a studio who, slowly but surely, is reversing that trend, getting better and closer to their potential with every release. And that studio is Spiders. For those of you who don't know, Spiders is a smaller development studio headquartered in France who've been around for many a year. They started out small in 2010 with a game called FAERY Legends of Avalon. It was a digital-only release on 360, PS3, and PC. Following up with that, they had Of Orcs and Men in 2012, which actually got some acclaim. This was later followed up by Mars Warlogs, which most people don't remember. But Spiders didn't get on my radar until 2014. That's when I read several reviews about their new title, Bound by Flame, describing it as a Souls-like. I bought it for 8th because 8th was really starting to get into the Dark Souls games and that style of gameplay, and I thought he might like it. He ended up not liking it at all. He played it for a couple hours and brought it back to me. I later on started playing it and I realized that it wasn't a Souls-like at all, but rather it felt like a small studio who really wanted to be BioWare, but didn't quite know how to pull it off. Now at this time, BioWare was still highly respected, keep that in mind. Their next release was Technomancer, which once again felt like a BioWare action RPG, this time with more of a sci-fi bent, and it was actually a sequel to Mars Warlogs, the previous PS3 and 360 and PC game that nobody remembers. It was a vast improvement over Bound by Flame. It had a much more professional look, the graphics were a lot crisper, the sound was better, the music was better, the menus were set up better, but it still wasn't at that BioWare level that they were aiming for. Which finally brings us to the game we're looking at today, their latest release to date, Greedfall, which came out in the fall of 2019. Greedfall, without a doubt, is the best game that Spiders has made to date. There's just no arguing that fact. In every respect, Greedfall feels like this game is Spiders' answer to BioWare's last fantasy RPG, Dragon Age Inquisition. So if you really enjoyed Dragon Age Inquisition, you might want to give Greedfall a look, especially since you can get it at a discounted price now. Graphically, this is the best looking game that Spiders has ever made. Sure, it still, in some areas, has that look of a PS3 game that was ported up to PS4, but again, we're talking about a studio that's comprised of 20 to 30 people. When you are playing the game, there are obvious shortcuts in graphics that you will notice. Every single palace looks exactly the same. Every city on the island was created by a different faction, and yet once you walk in the doors of the palace, they're all laid out exactly the same. Same thing goes for the bars. When you walk into a bar in every town, it has the same layout. You go downstairs, that's where the entrance to the battle arena is, and it's the same battle arena with the same host in every town. You will even see some of the same faces recycled in NPCs when you go from town to town, particularly this old hook-nosed crusty old guy. His face gets reused several times throughout the course of the game for every conceivable faction. I'm not going to hold that against them too strongly because again, Spiders is a development team of about 20 to 30 people. There's going to be corners cut both for cost and for development time. It doesn't affect the gameplay, so it's not that big of a deal. Plus, they really make up for that in the music. The music in this game is fantastic. It's some of the best music I've heard in a Western-style RPG in a long time. The only problem I have with the music is every now and again it would crescendo into these big sweeping arias when absolutely nothing is going on screen. So it doesn't always fit the mood. I don't know if this is an automated thing that's misfiring or what have you, but you could just be standing by yourself in an alleyway and suddenly the music will kick up like you just accomplished some great amazing feat and you're just standing there staring at your toes. Doesn't happen a lot, but it happened enough times that I noticed it. The voice acting is also very well done considering the budget and the size of the team involved. There weren't really any bad apples when it came to voice acting. The only thing that I can complain about in regards to the voice acting is you have these companions that you recruit throughout the course of the game, and they all have catchphrases that they say at the beginning of battles. It's just that they don't have enough of these catchphrases, so you end up hearing the same ones over and over and over again. After hearing "a little poison for me blade and let's go" for the 100th time, yeah, you're gonna wish that they had taken just a little more studio time to record a few more lines for each companion. As I said before, the gameplay feels like Dragon Age Inquisition with just a hint of Bloodborne mixed into the boss fights. You can recruit a companion from each faction of the game, but you only actually have a maximum of 2 of them with you in combat at any one time. You can set them to behave in specific ways while you focus on controlling the main character, Desarde. Combat is a mixture of melee, ranged magic attacks, and firearms. The action is live, it's not turn-based. It really wears its Dragon Age Inquisition inspiration on its sleeve. The controls are tight and responsive, and rather intuitive really. They feel natural, they feel familiar for those who have played these types of games before. If you've played Dragon Age Inquisition or games similar to that, you're going to feel right at home here, like putting on a pair of really well-worn shoes. The problems start with the balancing. Now, it's not balancing issues like what was experienced with their previous game, Technomancer, where enemies could just randomly become damage sponges that took forever to kill, to the point where you would get literally mobbed by bad guys while just trying to whittle down the health bar of 1. No, it's not like that at all. It's more reverse of that. As I mentioned before, some of their previous games felt like they included mechanics into their titles for no other reason than BioWare had those mechanics in their titles, but they didn't really understand how to make them all mesh together to where one didn't overpower or neuter the other. That is kind of going on with Greedfall as well, but it's really up to you as to whether you take advantage of that. And what I'm trying to get at is you have skills and you have talents and you have weapon skills and whatnot, all of which can be upgraded, but really all you need to do if you want to have an easy play of Greedfall on any difficulty is put all your leveling into gun skills, because eventually you will get to the point where you are just mass killing bad guys from a safe distance, because the guns, once you've leveled up, take off huge chunks of damage on enemies, including bosses. I've gone into boss fights after having focused all of my leveling on gun capabilities and have taken them down with just a few shots. It's that overpowering. And this game is rife with several locations where you can just grind away very quickly and very easily to max your character out well before you even get to the halfway point of the game. So depending on how you choose to play, you could play the entire second half of this game as an overpowered, untouchable god. Another example of putting in mechanics that they don't really know what to do with them would be the inclusion of some of the talents. So let me give you an example of what I mean. The game provides you with numerous different ways to accomplish certain objectives. Let's say you need to break a guy out of prison. You could either have very high charisma and just talk the guards into letting the guy go. You could pick a lock to get a key and then go buy armor or gear that makes you look like one of that faction, and then they will just let you walk right past them like you're one of them, and then you just pick the lock, let the guy out, and walk out. You can build up skills in munitions that allows you to blow a hole in the wall and get him out that way. But none of them are really necessary because, again, if you just build up charisma, you can just talk them into letting you in. What this means is that there's no such thing as a skill check fail, because if you don't have the charisma to talk your way in, the game just gives you multiple different ways to accomplish the same goal. I'll give you another example. You can earn the ability to jump in the game. And by that I mean jump from one ledge to another. These ledges will be painted white on the side that you're on and the side you're trying to get to, so that you know that that's a skill jump. But it doesn't really give you any reason to learn that skill, because one, usually the only reason you'd want to do one of those jumps is to get to a treasure chest that you couldn't get to otherwise, and there's never really anything in there rare or special enough to warrant you opening that treasure chest to begin with. They don't really reward you for maxing out that skill, because you'll jump over there and it's just a treasure chest. You open it up and it's just some coins and some random herbs or what have you. There's nothing special in there that makes you warrant having to take the time to learn up that skill. There are also areas where you need that skill to traverse through, say, a cave system or a dungeon or whatever. But the thing of it is, all of those levels are built to have multiple ways to traverse. So if you didn't build up that jumping skill, no problem. You just got to drop off the ledge and there'll be another path in the same direction underneath it. So there's several skills and perks and various things that you can level up that you'll end up not needing, to the point where some of them feel like they were added to the game just because those kind of skills are supposed to be in this kind of game. Almost like they were added just to make the game feel like it's more in-depth than it actually is. The game has numerous side quest paths. All of them are tied to the additional companions that you earn throughout the game. Completing these side quests add nothing to the actual core main mission of the game. All you accomplish by completing them is altering the ending. The ending of the game has several different versions depending on what you do. The core ending can only end one of two ways, because, spoiler alert, the last boss fight of the game will always be against the same boss no matter what you do in the game, and you will be forced to make a choice one way or the other after you defeat that boss. So there's only two possible main core endings depending on what decision you make at the end of the boss fight. The rest of the ending all depends on what you did throughout the game. So if you finished all the side quests for all of these companion characters, then you get their happy slideshow. If you didn't, then you get their sad slideshow. And I mean that literally. The ending is just a series of slides. There's no cinematics, there's no cutscenes to it. It's just slides with narration. Imagine spending 60 plus hours enjoying a mostly satisfying RPG. You beat the final boss, and then the ending is just a little bit better than the congratulation text-only endings that you used to get at the end of certain NES games back in the 80s. The only thing you have to worry about with the companion quests is that if you're going for the platinum, you need to knock them out as quickly as you possibly can. As soon as they become available, do them. And I'll give you a reason why. There's the side quest path for your friend who is with the coin guard. I can't remember his name at this point. If you do not complete his side quests as quickly as possible, then, spoiler alert, he will betray you and try to help bring about a coup where the coin guard try to take over. You kill your companion who betrayed you, and then you try to stop the coin guard's leader, but he escapes, and one of your remaining companions tells you, well, we can't protect both of these different factions. We're going to have to choose to protect one or the other. And when you do that, the coin guard takes over which one you chose not to protect, and then all of the side quests that were involved with that faction are no longer available to you, which means it is therefore impossible for you to be on friendly status with all of those different factions, which means you can't get the trophy for being on friendly terms with all those factions, and there you go. This is a similar problem to an issue I ran into with Technomancer. Very early in Technomancer, you are put in a position where you catch a woman committing a crime, and you have to choose whether you want to let her go or arrest her. If you arrest her, it blocks off her entire side quest path, which prevents you from getting a trophy, which prevents you from getting the plat, and it happens very early on in the game. So if you make the wrong choice, only to find out later on in the game that you cannot get that trophy because of the fact that you didn't let her go in the first hour or so of the game, guess what? You've got to replay the whole thing over again to get that trophy. And that's the same thing that happens with Greedfall. There are some missable side quest paths if you don't take them as quickly as you can, particularly with the companion quests, that will screw you over on trophies. It happened to me. I didn't do the companion who was with the coin guard when I should have. He betrayed me, and so I ended up having to play the whole game over again to get the platinum. And that, of course, leaves the plot. The plot at its base is a commentary on colonialism, particularly British colonialism. The game has a very 16 to 1700s look to it. It has 6 warring factions, 5 of which are from Serene, the mainland. And those are the Ptolemy, who are basically the Catholic Church, the Merchant Congregation, which is Britain, the Bridge Alliance, which they seem to be a kind of a mixture of India and the Moors. And you have the Naughts, which are your sea-bearing pirate-type characters. They all are covered in tattoos, and they give the whole game a kind of a Pirates of the Caribbean-type vibe. Then you have the Coin Guard, which they're basically like the Royal Guard. They're the ones I was telling you about earlier that eventually stage a coup. And then you have the Natives. The Natives live over in the New World, like, you know, the American continent. You play as a character named Desardet. Desardet is the legate of Serene, which, as best as I can tell, means that Sardet is a mixture of an adventurer, an ambassador, and an explorer. He is tasked with escorting his cousin to the New World to become the governor over New Serene, which is a city that has been built over in the New World. All of these factions have built new cities over in the New World, and all of them, for the most part, are fighting with the natives, who are sort of magic users and at one with the earth. They worship an ancient tree god that lives in the center of a volcano in the center of the island, and they basically just want all these pesky foreigners to go away. In the middle of all this, everyone is suffering from an epidemic called the Malachor, which is slowly killing the people of Serene. The Naughts, for whatever reason, those are the pirate guys, they're immune, and so are the Islanders. Not too long after arriving in the New World, The cousin you were sent to protect comes down with a bad case of Malachor, and so it's up to you to try to build relationships with the natives and solve the mysteries of the island and try to find a cure for the Malachor while also protecting your people and trying as best as you can to keep the peace with all these different folks that want to kill each other. Meanwhile, there's monsters springing up everywhere, and they're all trying to kill you too. I'm going to be honest with you right now. Since BioWare has gone to shit with their last 2 releases, Greedfall represents the only game out on the market right now that has that classic BioWare feel to it. It's not as good in many ways as Dragon Age Inquisition, but damn if they didn't give it their best shot. The game is not perfect. There were shortcuts taken here and there. There are gameplay systems to it that feel like they were just put there because they should be there, which allows you to manipulate those systems and become an overpowered super deity. And there also seems to be minor shortcuts in the writing that they somehow missed, like how the natives refer to the Bridge Alliance as lions because they have a little crest of a lion on their breastplate, despite the fact that there are no lions on the island, so the natives shouldn't know what a lion is to begin with. But again, those type of little plot mistakes don't affect the gameplay, and it's totally your choice as to whether or not you want to take advantage of the potential exploits that these extra systems that have been put into the game offer. If you want challenge, it can certainly be there. You just have to refuse to give in to the temptations of the potential exploits therein. I had a hell of a lot of fun with this game. I don't regret a single minute that I put into it. The characters are a lot of fun. They're really interesting. You get to care about them. Their stories, their side quests, even though they don't factor much into the main core part of the story, they're still interesting to play through. Overall, for the price you can get this game for now, I would say it's a must-buy. This Studio Spiders is so close, so tantalizingly close to reaching that AAA level studio of quality. They've just got a little bit more to go. And they've just recently announced their newest game, Steel Rising, and I am very excited to get my hands on it and see if they finally make it to that level. I'm rooting for them. Greedfall gets a very respectable 5.5 out of 7. So, how'd you like this new review? If you did, and I certainly hope you did, why don't you click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notified on all my newest videos. Throw me a like on here, that helps to spread the word. Drop me some comments, let me know what you think about this game if you've played it already. What did you agree with me on? What did you disagree with me on? I love to converse with my viewers. If you want to contribute to the channel, there's a Streamlabs link. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter is also in the description. If you would like to interact on a more personal level, then feel free to come watch the 7th cast. It's on Twitch every Saturday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central. There's a link in the description for that too. So until next time, folks, this is 7th.